Hello and welcome to Card Shop Insiders, a podcast where we combine decades of experience from both sides of the counter to take you inside the business of local game stores and collectible gaming hobbies. I'm Noah, and I play games, lots of them.
Hi, I'm John. I'm the card shop owner and a 25-year industry veteran.
Well, John, with our combined perspectives, we're ready to take you inside, so let's jump in. We like to open up with the news and updates. John, do you want to start this week with the Star Wars news, the Lorcana news, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, or Pokemonsters?
Let's start out with Magic.
Magic news.
Magic news to begin with. Magic is coming up this coming weekend, the 26th, the 27th, and 28th of July with the Bloomborough pre-releases. And we're going to be doing one each day, plus an at-home event each day. And there's a lot of excitement about it. I think people are interested in, they like the cute little furry figures. That's basically what it is. But they also said that, from what I've heard, the gaming mechanics are pretty good with the set. So I think it's going to be a good pre-release. However, I don't think it's going to be one of our better ones. And the reason being is because Magic always comes out with a set in the middle of the damn summertime when people are on vacation or they're coming back from vacation. So, for instance, my normal Friday night crowd, there's like 6 people that are on vacation on Friday night. They may be coming back on Saturday, and they said they'll be in here on Sunday, or who knows, or they're going on vacation on Friday.
Yeah.
So Magic does what Magic is going to do. But yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. I think it's always it's good for customers to have those pre-releases, even though they're got too many products still coming out. But people look forward to it, and this set I think will, I don't know, some of the people who like to collect everything will be in, but then there's certain people who want to collect just specific things that they're looking forward to. And another thing about Magic, I got an email the other day from Wizards of the Coast stating that by popular demand, Fallout Commander decks will be available at our local distributor. Make sure you contact your local distributor, which I immediately did. And my local distributor, my sales rep, I should say, said to me, John, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. And I read him, I sent him a copy of the email, and I could just see him sticking his head from one side to the next saying, no, they don't tell us anything.
Yeah.
So they don't have that information yet. But he said, as soon as I find out, I'll let you know. However, he's on vacation this week, so I just hope he doesn't drop the ball. Probably that's what's going to happen, but I can't fault him for that.
He doesn't usually drop the ball.
No,
he usually blame everybody else.
So. Jake's pretty good. I mean, I have no complaints about Jake. He's always been good to me.
All right, other news with Magic. I don't know if you got a lot into this, but Hasbro announced the new director or the new president of Wizards of the Coast. They got John Haidt, who was a longtime Blizzard exec, who worked with World of Warcraft and other stuff in his career with Blizzard. He has what they're calling extensive digital experience. And I pulled a couple of quotes from their press release that I thought might be relevant to people thinking about being in the gaming industry or game space. Hasbro emphasized that he, quote, or his hire, quote, marks a significant step in Hasbro's strategic focus on digital experiences and video games. And then they also said, quote, John's love for D&D and Magic the Gathering combined with his leadership in video games will be crucial as we expand our digital offerings to deliver what our fans crave. Now,
the fans actually crave this digital offerings?
Well, so it raises the question, like, is this going to be like a marker or a milestone in the development of the collectible gaming hobby where things are going to shift more towards digital?
Sounds that way.
We recently talked about the impact of shutting down the Lorcana digital client and about how that has a perceived impact on the physical game. Yeah. And now, Wizards of the Coast is hiring somebody whose explicit experience is in developing digital offerings. When at a time when just a couple weeks ago we talked about how they're giving out physical product for success on MTG Arena, and they're looking at other expansions of their digital products. I just kind of wonder if this is kind of an insight into the future, that they may be looking away from paper production and more into digital stuff.
All I could say, no, is they better stop screwing around with it too much because they're starting to piss people off. From my perspective and from what I've heard from players, they like coming in and playing. They like the paper stock, and if Wizards keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, they're going to push people out of the game. I mean, that's my own personal take on it.
Well, I can see that being the take from the local store, because you've got the people that are physically coming in. But in this press release, that I didn't put the quotes in here, but they also had numbers. And Wizards of the Coast was the only Hasbro product that had a positive cash flow
Of course, yeah. All the other
in the
ones
last
suck. That's why Hasbro was in
2023.
trouble. Hasbro was in trouble.
Well, they are, but Wizards, specifically with the production of Magic and D&D, was incredibly profitable, and they had record-breaking sales in 2023 of Magic the Gathering, and they're probably going to have a new record at the end of 2024 for sales this year.
What was it, over $1 billion or
Yeah,
something like that?
yeah, it was a huge number.
Yeah.
So I think they seem to have a perspective that digital is good, at least for their business model, and that people are really playing the digital a lot. So it's interesting to think about what they're going to do in terms of balancing the two. Um, but I mean, we could look into a crystal ball and shoot blind guesses right now. But I think that we might look back on this moment at some point and see this as a point where all the collectible games changed their models based on Wizards going with this digital first focus.
Well, Wizards is the standard bearer. And if they're successful in doing this, other companies, if they're smart, are going to follow suit.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how long it's going to take for them to, evolve into an online thing. It's going to take a couple of years at least. But Wizards really has to, stand back a little bit and evaluate. I don't know if they really evaluated all these statistics that they come up with. That I don't know. It's frustrating from a store owner because they ask for our opinions, and I see some of the opinions on, the Facebook page about it, and some of the opinions are of my opinion. Uh, Actually, there's some stores. Oh, this is great. This is fantastic. I don't think they realize what it's going to do to them as an individual store yet. Everything looks good until it happens. And then all of a sudden, your customer base shrinks because everybody's playing online and they're pouring money into the digital aspect of it, directly giving it to Wizards of the Coast, and they're not coming in the store and buying your product. And then you're sucking wind because, yeah, how could you exist if you don't sell product in your store? That's really what it boils down to.
I think this is kind of a point to another like possible area of innovation and pivoting, or needing to be aware of it, looking into that future and seeing the possibility of increased digital play, which we think equates to decreased in-person play, or at least decreased physical support. And so what does that mean for you? Do you get more into the like event organization space where you put together online tournaments? Do you still have a place that you can even make money selling games? Do you look at different product? You've talked about in your career switching out of other collectibles and toys and into the heavy card industry. If what will it look like? What games will follow suit here? And it's an interesting point for the other games we'll talk about here in the news. Star Wars and Lorcana are brand new games that have just jumped into the physical gaming space. Neither one of them is producing publicly a digital client right now.
Right.
You
But
know,
I said, they got to look at what Wizards does and how successful they're going to be.
yeah,
Fortunately and unfortunately, I'm in a different position. I'm 78 years old soon. I don't give a damn what's going to happen a couple of years, from now. I'm serious about it because I'm concerned about is what's what's today and how I'm helping my customers today. Uh, 10
Well,
years from now, I probably won't be around.
well, I see that, but I think like there's those of us that are going to still be gaming in this community are interested in what happens in that situation. So
Well, if
I
you buy the store from me eventually, you can make that decision.
we'll get there someday. All right, let's talk about some of the other games. Why don't we take a quick hit since we talked a little bit extra about Magic there? Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon are really fast today. Yu-Gi-Oh's run their World Championship qualifiers for the last couple of weeks. We talked last week about the one going on in Texas.
Yeah.
They've got one more to go. I think it's Germany. And then after that, they're gearing up for first week of September. They'll have World Championships, and then they've got some releases coming down the pipeline after that. But
They got releases all the time.
they're not trying to shake anything up really though before
No,
the World Championships. So
no, they're not. And the format or the cards that are available now, people are getting sick of it. They're looking forward to a reset of the banned and restricted list because it's been going on so long that people don't want to play these decks anymore. I
yeah,
heard that the other day from some of the Yu-Gi-Oh people that came into the store.
well, I think that's an important part of all the card games is the cycle of what is the meta, what are people able to
Yeah,
play, what's legal, what's not.
yeah.
Wizards back on Wizards, they had a long period where they had rotation in standard, and that was causing a lot of like staleness. Where you think the giant card pool would create innovation, it wasn't, and people were really frustrated. But now they've gone through a cycle here where they've had some stuff phase out, and I think Bloomborough marks another transition for what is legal in
A
the standard.
segue into it.
Yeah. The other one we'll hit briefly was Pokemon World Championships are in August in Hawaii. So Pokemon's going to close out their competitive play season.
I can't understand why a big company like Pokemon would have an event in Hawaii. I mean, most of the people, if they're smart, they're not going to fly all the way to Hawaii. It's not like they can get into a car and drive across a big bridge into Hawaii. So why the hell would they do that? Why don't centralize it in the middle of the country, or as they normally do, in California, or even sometimes on the East Coast? Makes no
Po-
sense.
Pokemon's run by a Japanese company.
I realize that.
They
Well,
don't care about the middle of the United States.
well, I mean,
Last year, they did Worlds in London and Tokyo the year before that.
okay.
I mean, they're doing an island theme right now. Those are all islands. But there was a big announcement. There was a lot of marketing that's gone into it and design and stuff tied into doing it in Hawaii. And there's some speculation that they're going to pair it with some announcements about going back to the tropical themed regions. When they were in England, they announced the Spain themed game, and now they're going to Hawaii and they're going to announce maybe.
Wouldn't it be cool if they teamed up with Survivor and did a Pokemon Survivor on the islands of Fiji or something like that?
Only if the people had
Wouldn't
to
that
dress
be
in
cool?
pokey costumes. All right, let's talk about my main games right now. Star Wars, a couple of quick updates on that. OP kits did come in. They were in stock, and you had a chance yesterday to run our first weekend of OP. How'd that go?
It went well. We had 9 players that came in, and I still had some stock left over, which is starting to dwindle. And I let each player, if they wanted to, buy 4 additional packs. And the reason I'm doing it is I'm doling it out because I don't know when the next wave is going to be coming in. Jake, from my distributor, said it could be up to a month. It could be longer than a month. So I'm just doling it out so I have enough to support the league each week.
That's good.
That's the most important thing.
I think that's really important. I do think I've heard a lot of good things about drafting this new set. People think it's really cool. I know there's a cost concern or question about that with people. Do they want to spend that kind of money to be able to draft, from packs of the set? But I mean, I think it'd be nice to be able to get product supply in that can support drafting. We've talked about that with Lorcana too. There just wasn't enough supply in the first couple sets to be able to rationally draft. But now that it's going to supposedly be better with Star Wars, they said they're going to do better managing product on set 2 release, and then for sure going into 3 and 4. Hopefully we'll see that, and we'll see an increased supply so that we can do fun stuff like that.
Talk about Star Wars as far as their tournament software.
Yeah. So they made a big announcement last week. They had a weekly play video that they did with their live stream, and they talked about organized play. They made the announcement that they're going to do what they're calling season 0 of their world championship or galactic championship cycle, starting with local game stores and moving their way up to the galactic level for qualifiers and things like that. But in conjunction with that, they made a mystery announcement that they have partnered with a yet to be named company to develop new tournament software, and that they expect for that software to be rolled out and released publicly before the first set 0 tournaments or season 0 tournaments, which are supposed to start happening here in set 2. So August or September, you as a OP store should be getting notified about a new software to download and use. And it's supposed to be substantially better than the in-house software that they were developing before.
Well, I hope so, because the existing software doesn't work well. The only thing that it's useful to me is with the 9 people that came in the other day, I had to put in their codes and their username, and I ran a simulated tournament just to be able to report to Fantasy Flight, yes, we're doing tournaments. So that goes towards our metrics.
Well, I thought it was interesting that they want that, because the OP kit, if you recall, when the first OP kit came, we read through and they had what counts as participating in OP. And they were very open and inclusive. I was really impressed that they wanted to count any interaction with the game as participating in OP. People that were coming in the store to just trade, people that were playing Twin Suns, people that are playing casual, and then people that are playing tournaments were all supposed to be treated the same as far as OP goes. But then when they want their metrics, they want to know if you're running a tournament.
Well,
they're not asking how many people played Twin Suns or how many people came in and
how
bought
many
packs.
total people play.
Right.
Yeah. That's the way of the world now in the gaming industry.
Yeah, I think there's a little disconnect though in the message that it sends to say we want to include everybody, but then we really care about the tournament players.
Does it indicate that they don't know what the hell they're talking about or what they're doing?
No, I think it indicates that they know that the money gets made off of tournament players and that they're going to not worry so much about the casual player or the casual engagement.
Well, why vacillate and come out with all these different things that they're coming out with?
I don't know.
And it's confusing to everybody. It's very confusing. It's confusing to the store owner. It's confusing to the player.
What's confusing about Star Wars right now?
Because they keep changing. Oh, we got this program. Use this program. Oh, if you're going to run a big tournament, use Top Deck. And as a store owner, it's a pain in the neck. You got too many other things to worry about than catering to their individual needs so they can get their metrics.
Yeah.
I'm ranting today. I'm on the ball today.
I don't know if you're on the ball, but the ball's in your vicinity.
Yeah.
All right, let's do Lorcana real quick. August 9th, the next set comes out. That's just a few weeks away. Shimmering Skies. I feel like they just released the last set. I mean, they're cranking through the sets. It's 3-month cycles for them, so it's supposed to be every 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool, but it just feels like they've had a lot come out really quickly. We're barely getting our heads wrapped around all the stuff that you could do from set 4, and now we're going to be on set 5. So,
you know what it means?
Money.
It means that you're going to be spending more money.
That's always true.
Yeah.
I did want to. We've talked a couple times about whether the organized play for Lorcana was being successful, though, and so I spent a couple minutes putting together the statistics for how many players are showing up to play in the big tournaments. Mm-hmm. I thought we could go over that real quick before we transition to our main topic for today, if you got a second.
Sure.
All right. So the first organized play tournaments for Lorcana were held in Atlanta and Lille on the same weekend at the end of May. Both tournaments ended up raising their player caps to 2,048 after the initial 1,024 sold out within basically minutes. Both were represented to be sold out completely, but if you look at the statistics on Melee, neither one actually filled capacity. The Lille tournament was 2,047 out of 2,048. People popped in for that tournament, and then in Atlanta, they actually only had 1,990 of the 2,048 people show up and put boots on the ground. So those two tournaments are effectively 100%. They sold all the tickets for the tournament, but they didn't run the tournament with 100% capacity. Then in June, just 2 weeks later, they had DLC Chicago. That was a 1,024 person event. I understand it was limited by venue size, but they represented that tournament was also sold out. And then it only had 967 of the 1,024 show up. And then Bochum was done this last or 2 weeks ago, July 6th and 7th, in Germany. And that was another 2,048 person tournament. And again, they sold it out, but they only had players show up at 1,959. And then this weekend was in the U.S. with DLC Fort Worth, which is in Texas, another 2,000 person tournament. I never saw anywhere that this tournament was sold out. I think you could still get a ticket to participate in this up to the first day of the event.
Well,
And
I mean, I saw on your statistics that it was at 89%.
yeah, they had 1,824 people.
It could be, again, it's vacation season, it's hurricane season, and Texas has had a hell of a lot of bad weather lately. So maybe people just shied away from it. I don't think it's indicative of the strength and health of the game. I just think it's all these other factors that are going into it.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, my takeaway is that these tournaments are effectively full. They're still running pretty much at full capacity. And anytime they put one of these on, they can put 2,000 people on the floor, basically. Plus, there's people that are not playing main event that are showing up at these things. So you've got between 2,000 and 3,000 people in very different geographic areas showing up for these tournaments. So I think that the pro or the competitive Lorcana scene is pretty healthy. You've got this many people showing up on both continents, U.S. and Europe. Well, U.S. isn't a continent, North America, but major regions, U.S. and Europe, are filling these things up. And I think that's positive to see, especially going into a fifth set here, and having the rest of this year's schedule kind of laid out for where they're going to have events with Toronto, Vegas, and Seattle.
It's going to be interesting to see what goes on at Gen Con this year.
Well, there's also the two in Europe.
But Gen Con, I think, is going to be a good indicator.
Well, and Gen Con is in it's next week, isn't it?
Beginning of August, isn't it? Sometime?
Yeah, that's next week.
Yeah.
So
close.
Gen Con's next week, and they're going to have the event exclusives there. They've got tournaments and things that are already sold out. I mean, all the events are sold out. So,
I mean, I think it's going to be good, and it's going to be a good indicator of the health and strength of the industry.
Yeah, I think well, and Gen Con's going to have a bazillion people there anyway. So, all right, well, let's wrap up.
No, let's not wrap up Lorcana yet.
You want to talk more Lorcana?
Just a brief thing. There was an email from one of my other distributors, Peach State, and they said that Lorcana, as far as running tournaments and things like that, is going to become a little bit more, not difficult, but a little bit more stringent as far as their rules and regulations. If you read between the lines, it's kind of interesting. It says retailers have to buy at least 8 boxes, not cases, but booster boxes. And you have to get everybody to use Melee in order to report the results. So that 8 boxes, I'm not sure, how they come up with that number, or if they finally realize that maybe not all stores, legitimate stores that they opened up, are legitimate stores. There's something going on there for them to make that kind of restriction. And, I'll report about it in the future if I find any more information about it. But they want us to use Melee for all the tournaments, even the casual play on weekends. We're going to have to start doing it, which is a pain in the neck to the players. But that's the only way to make sure that we get a continual supply of the OP kits. And that's the whole thing. In order to get an OP kit, you have to do these type of things.
So that also is another contradiction that these companies are putting out. The OP kit for Lorcana has been explicitly for casual play.
Right.
It is show up and have fun.
But yet they want us to report.
Yeah, there's points you're supposed to put up on the chart. You can get pins. You can get promo cards. There's a participation promo. There's placement board promos and pins. This is This is an evolution of their strategy here, where they said, "Hey, we want you to come and play casual," and now we're going to say, "Hey, you have to match people and play a tournament."
Yeah, I don't think it's was only a Peach State distribution directive. I think the directive came from Ravensburger. I haven't heard anything from Southern Hobbies yet. When Jake gets back from vacation, they may send out something like that, similar to say, hey, in order to, to maintain your status as an OP store, you got to do this, this, and that.
I don't have a problem with them setting up standards for OP stores and for recognized retailers. I mean, I think maybe there's a difference in what those two things are, but I think that they have to communicate about it clearly. They have to give you like forewarning about it. And hopefully they've taken feedback from players about it, because, I know that there's people that play in our store that don't want to play in a tournament.
Okay.
They don't like the way it feels. They don't like to have the pressure of a result.
Yeah.
But they do enjoy playing, and they'll come in and they'll play 10 or 12 games on a Saturday because they can play against me, then they can play against somebody else and somebody else.
It's casual, laid back type of play.
Right.
No stress.
Well, and a lot of talk goes on about strategy and gameplay, and a lot of learning can go on with some of the newer players when you're playing that way.
Right.
When it's much more difficult if you put the wrappings of a tournament on it, for somebody to like intervene and be like, hey, that's not really an optimal way to do that. Have you ever thought about doing this, this, or this? That's a much more well-received thing when people are playing a casual game.
Well, if you notice, there's a lot of stores that they're regimented into running competitive tournaments every single week.
Yeah.
And personally speaking, as my store owner, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's a good policy. I know we tried one time to split it out. We had a legitimate tournament, and then we had casual play. And the player base was pretty much split 50-50. And, we had 6 people that wanted to do this, and we had 6 people that wanted to do that. And ultimately, I made the decision to go back to casual play, which I think we're going to continue, other than the store championship, unless Ravensburger says something different that we have to do.
Yeah.
All right, now we can go.
All right. Well,
and this is something that I didn't do. Let me go back just a bit. There's a lot. I get bombarded all the time with people calling me up or even knocking at the door. Are you interested in having us look at your credit card rates for the last 3 month statements? And I'm sure we can get you a better rate. We can get you a new machine. We can do this and that. They're not giving you anything for free. Nothing's for free. If they give you a free credit card machine, I can guarantee that over the course of a year or two, you're going to be paying for that credit card machine and higher fees. Recently, a couple months ago, I had to buy a new credit card machine. I think we discussed that. And ultimately, it cost me about $700 for the PIN pad, the credit card processing machine itself, and even the damn holder that I had to buy to hold the PIN pad on the counter. So it was about $700. And at that time, I asked the guy who I deal with at the local company, he's up in Virginia, I said, I never really paid much attention. Don't fall asleep. Your eyes are starting to look like they're...
I'm looking at your paper and reading this.
Okay.
That's what that was.
I asked him, I said, I know I should be checking these credit card rates. I guess I should ask every year. And I hadn't been doing it for a while. And he looked at it and he said, oh, yeah. He said, we can make adjustments to this. And he said, it's up to the credit card machine or credit card processing company. And let's see. These are some of the changes that he was able to make for me. The Amex, the interchange rate, which is the wholesale rate we are charged, it went down from 1.75% to 0.55. So that was a 1.2% decrease in the fee that they were going to charge me. PIN debit, which is personal identification number, went down from 1% to 0.25%, quarter percent. PIN debit transaction fee, every time they process it, it went down from 20 cents to 10 cents. And the authorization fee went down from 15 cents to 10 cents. All right, so that pretty much took care of Amex, which went into effect immediately. And then he said, you're going to have to wait. This was in May. He said, you're going to have to wait to May 1st, or I'm sorry, June 1st. He said, because MasterCard, Visa, and Discover do theirs at the beginning of the month.
Well, can we pause right there for a
Yeah.
second? So I also own a small business and do credit card processing, and this is one of the things that if you go to different stores and you see they've got the sign up, this is one of the reasons why American Express is often not accepted at like really small businesses.
Yeah.
The credit card processing fees on Amex are a completely different structure
Yeah.
than the other major cards, Visa, MasterCard, and Discover. And a lot of people choose just not to take them.
Yeah, I take them all. I mean,
I think it's, in my opinion, best policy is to take money in every way you can
yeah.
and do what you're talking about, which is try to mitigate the fees for it.
I actually have people ask me if I'll accept cash. I'll say, I'll hold you by your feet and shake you upside down in order to get money out of you. And they laugh. I don't take checks anymore unless it's somebody I know that I've dealt with before. But very few people come in that want to pay by check. But let's
Continuing this discussion about the other three,
all right.
Amex or MasterCard, Visa, and
MasterCard,
Discover.
Visa, and Discover. There's three different rates, and it's very confusing. That's why I urge you to go on, Google and search what qualified rate means regarding credit cards, mid-qualified and non-qualified. All right. For instance, the qualified rate on those three credit cards went from 3.626, so 3.2% down to 1.59%. The mid qualifier went from 4.9% down to 2.25%, and the non qualifying went from 5.6 down to 3.5, which is a significant difference over the year. So I'm going to make sure that I mark on my calendar May of next year of 2025. I'm going to get in touch with these people again and say, what's my rates going to be? Are they going to be increased or are they going to be decreased? Now, I know, again, it's very confusing. I read it 3 or 4 times and I couldn't figure out what the hell they were even talking about. But there's a lot of good sources online that you can find this information from. There's a good reason why the interchange rate is one of the least understood aspects of credit card processing. Interchange rates are complicated. Uh, when your business processes a debit or credit transaction, you know you will be charged a merchant fee for that process. However, you may not know precisely how that fee is determined, and that when you pay interchange fees, they are made up of three different components, including your payment processor's margin, the card brand fee, and the interchange fee. And I looked and said, what the hell are they talking about? And then, they're talking about, there's a couple of paragraphs about the interchange rate and what are credit card rates made up of. Typically, they're made up of interchange rates. And I'm only, hitting the surface of this. Card brand fee, like I mentioned, and the payment processing margin. Uh, yeah, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, there's a lot of long boilerplate things that you get shown and you click through or you sign and you've got to deal with. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to make sure that you try to know what you're signing on for.
I've dealt with First Data ever since I had my first credit card machine, and I'm not going to change. All right, they may be charging me a little bit more. I'm not going to compare. Okay. And the reason I'm not going to compare is because they have the money in my account within 2 days. So if I take a credit card on Friday or Saturday, it appears in my bank account on Monday.
Yeah.
If I take a credit card on Sunday, it appears on Tuesday in my account. Wednesday night, it appears on Friday. So they're prompt and they're good. I mean, I haven't had any complaints about them. Watch, I'll have a big problem with them, but every time I've called them for any particular problem, it's very infrequently, they've always been able to help me. So That's it with credit card machines and credit card fees and everything. You'll go nuts trying to figure this out.
Well, you can. There's a couple of different things. Like I looked up some stuff to try to get ready to talk about it a little bit. I mean, I think you can find like all of if you Google the fees that go with any of the like prominent online processors, you can find information about what their fee numbers would be, and they've got different types of fees. Now we've got mobile tap like Google Pay and Apple Pay. People want to be able to do that, and those have their own set of fees.
Of course.
Um, I I looked up. It was interesting. Like I thought of the companies that I know of that do payment processing, and so I googled those specifically, and then I just kind of googled like best small business credit card processing, and like looked up Forbes, a well-known like financial entity or magazine publication, and they listed five companies, and I've only heard of one of the five. Like their top five rated private credit card processors.
Which ones are they?
Merchant One, Clover, North Payments, Payment Cloud, and Stacks with an X.
The only one I've really heard of is Clover.
That's the only one I'd heard of.
And that's specific equipment, if I can remember right.
Yeah, they give you equipment and stuff with when I looked at their website. I didn't go deep into all of them, but they rated them with fees and customer support and ease of install, and they gave them scores, and all five of them had a 9.5 or higher out of 10. The other thing to note, though, is that companies like Forbes post these articles, and they get a kickback if you click their link and sign up.
Of course.
And so, like, some of that you can only take with a grain of salt. That like they're the best. Actually, they might be the best paying for the referral lead. I don't know. So, I think I distilled it down looking at your notes and my research today into a couple of things as a summary for this. One, costs to consider when you're doing your credit card setup is hardware costs. You should ask and know what you're going to pay for that. What are the contract terms? Like, do you get an automatic renewal? Is it going to increase the fees without telling you? That kind of information from your contract are important. What is the fee structure? Like, what's the cost per transaction? How does it differ brand to brand? Are you paying extra for certain special features like Google Pay or Apple Pay? And is that something that you want and need to do? And then, like, what incentives are being offered? You talked about, like, people will offer you incentives, but you need to consider and scrutinize those incentives to make sure that they're actually a value add instead of a value drain.
Well, again, that's a variable cost to your business, but it's an essential part of your business, and you have to have it.
Yeah, gotta have it.
Just judging by my numbers, of only 12.3% paying cash now.
Right. Then last 2 points that I had on the summary were shop around and compare your options. Your bank, like your actual bank, may not be your best option. And you should get information from different companies and find out what it's going to cost you. Make up some numbers, like find out if they can tell you like what projected fees would be on $5,000 or $10,000 in transactions.
They can't, because there's all different types of transactions.
They can, though. When I did my credit card processing for my business, we talked to them and we could get like projected numbers. They know statistically that 46% of Americans swipe a Visa or a MasterCard and 13% swipe this. So they can give you that spread on a little PDF and say.
But your fee is going to be different if a customer comes in and forgets their PIN number, and then you have to manually put it into the system. You get charged a different fee than if they did with their PIN number.
Right, but we're not trying to be down to the penny. You're trying to get an idea that generally, if I get $10,000 worth of transaction fees, what does that look like? Where did that money come from and what goes out?
No matter what, it's expensive.
It is. And then the last thing is just know what you're committing to and how hard it could be to change. If you're committing to something that you can't cancel, or if you're committing to something that has a month-to-month fee arrangement, make sure you understand what you've committed to and be able to adapt as necessary and within the rules of what you've agreed to.
All right, I have a final thought on this too, and this is from the article, and I'm just going to read it right straight. Ultimately, interchange rates are a part of doing business if you accept credit cards, but the cost can be well worth it to authorize transactions in real time and increase your business's cash flow. Understand why they apply, or understanding why they are applied, and the services they cover can help you make more sense of your monthly statement and better understand the payments industry as a whole. Now, a good thing about the company I deal with, I can get online every single day and see exactly up to date what was processed yesterday or the day before. So if you're that anal about it, you can get in there and check everything every day if you want. I'm not, because I don't have the time to do this. Okay, next topic. What do we got?
Well, after we finish up with our main topic each week, we like to move over to the 3 E's, John, where we try to educate, enlighten, and entertain. You usually break us into that with some facts that come from the Snapple fact generator.
I got.
And then we go into any other tidbits of knowledge that you've gained from your AARP membership.
All right. I don't always generate a Snapple fact.
We talked about this last week. It's on the episode.
I mean, I know it is, but I don't always auto-generate.
One real Snapple cap, and then you use the special generator thing.
Well, you can. All right.
No need to be sensitive about it.
All right. I got 2 facts off the top of my head without reading about what I'm going to do exactly today.
I can make
what percentage of a human brain is water?
What percentage of statistics are made up?
What percentage of a human brain is water?
71.
Close. You were 70. Okay. Except for some of the water balloon heads I get coming into the store.
Might be higher for some of our customers.
And did you know that an ostrich's brain is smaller than its eye?
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
they have some big eyes.
They're dumber than hell then.
Aren't human eyes the only organ that doesn't grow as you get bigger?
I don't know.
Have your eyes been that big your whole life?
I guess so. My ears are getting bigger as I get old. I know that. Either that or my head's shrinking.
Both.
All right. All right. Snapple. How did Snapple get its name?
Tell me. What words did they combine?
All right. Back in 1972, the company was formed to sell to health food stores. And the original name of the company was Unadulterated Food Products.
Yeah, that's sexy.
Yeah, like that? All right. So...
Hold on, folks. I have to stop at the gas station and pick up my unadulterated food product apple beverage.
That sounds like a sex toy.
It really does.
All right. So one of the first products that they produced was a carbonated apple drink that actually in storage began to ferment, which popped off the caps, which made a snapping noise. So Snappy and Apple became Snapple.
Well, you know that the caps on the old glass bottles used to actually have a good pop to them when you would open them.
I know, but yeah, they don't produce any carbonated drinks anymore. They've stopped that.
Well, not the carbon. It was just they had the metal cap on the glass bottle, and it always had that release when you popped it.
I think it's because it's vacuum sealed. Yeah, but well, if you crack the plastic one, you hear a little bit.
Well, and you get the
yeah. Well, all right. Now the problem with that name was there was a Texas-based company who already spoke for it. They already had that name. So Unadulterated Food Products offered them $500, which the Lone Star State business agreed to. And this all happened in 1972 or, in that era. But that's how the name Snapple became effective. And we get back to Snapple facts now.
Let's hit for a second there, though. I'll give you a rando fact for our education. Right. Did you know there are people that actually try to make money buying website names and product names and copywriting them and stuff like that? And then they swoop in before you can get your stuff. Mm-hmm. They watch like the corporation filings for Delaware, or they watch patent filings, and then they swoop in and steal your websites. And then they try to sell them back to you. Well, I mean, I guess they don't steal them, but they register the domains before you get them, and then
I
they
had an offer just recently for the toyfactory.net or something like that. And no,
$50 billion.
well, I don't know. I didn't even click on it because who knows? It
Well,
might
it's
have been,
probably just a
it might have
phishing
been,
email.
yeah. But yeah, there's people who do that kind of stuff. All right. Now, you want to get into Snapple facts?
I thought we were in the Snapple
Well, we
fact
are,
chain.
but you talk about this other thing, and she just called me.
I've hurt
So
your feelings. I know.
we got diverted, or I got diverted.
All right.
All
What
right.
else you got?
All right, let's see. Again, I mentioned that you could you could search all of Snapple's real facts on its website. Uh, these tidbits of information have nothing to do with Snapple. Like, for instance, how mangoes are related to pistachios, and how you can theoretically start a fire with ice. I guess the reflection of the ice concentrated,
Good.
could make a fire if you're there long enough without it melting in your hands. Um, let me see. The Snapple name combines the word snappy and apple. You won't, however, find a fact that mentions the alcoholic bumble that led to the catchy word combination. They don't want to talk about how they made alcohol because it fermented. But it's sold. The ones that got in the store, people were happy about it because it had alcohol in it. All right. Let me see. And I had a prompt, and it was a little ketchup container.
Yeah.
Did you know that ketchup was once sold as a medicine?
No, tell me about this.
Yeah, seriously. Um, let me see. Again, I'm going to read it. Probably when you're looking at a package of fast food, ketchup packets, you probably aren't thinking about the incredible health benefits hidden inside. But believe it or not, tomato ketchup started in pill form back in 1812. This inventor, horticulturist, and scientist invented the first tomato-based ketchup. Most Americans and Europeans wouldn't eat tomatoes at that time because they resembled poisonous nightshade berries. People thought it would make them sick. Uh,
People still think we get sick from them.
This started to change in the 1830s. In 1834, a physician living in Ohio started selling ketchup as a cure for diarrhea, jaundice, and indigestion. Before long, he began selling his concentrated ketchup in pill form.
Wonder if it had as much sugar back then.
Probably not. Probably not. As demand for the miracle condiment skyrocketed, other companies started producing tomato ketchup and pills. Uh, like most of the other tales of snake oil salesmen pan out, things didn't go well for the consumer. Tomatoes were only in season for 2 months of the year, but demand was so high to sell them all year long uh, that they continued. The science of food preservation was not like it is today. Today, they put all kinds of additives in it to keep it, the way it's supposed to be. Um, Companies were filling the medical tomato tincture with rotted tomato pulp. The food industry at that time was notoriously underregulated, but the companies had to do something to keep the ketchup from arriving at the customer looking like a rotted tomato. So they began adding harmful chemicals to it, like boric acid, formalin, salicylic acid, and benzoic acid to help preserve it. They even put in coal tar. Now, coal tar is in a lot of shampoos. And if you ever get coal tar in your eyes, it burns like hell.
Oh, geez.
But yeah, let me see. Let's see. Ketchup's time in the medical spotlight lasted until 1850, when after some companies got caught selling laxatives as tomato pills, the demand for medicinal ketchup fell off a cliff. And that would be another half a century before Heinz would enter the marketplace with a non-toxic ketchup, tomato ketchup.
Just wanted to be in the room when the Heinz guy was like, I think I can do this in a way that doesn't kill us. And we could put it on hot dogs.
Yeah, along with the mustard and relish. All right, the other thing I want to talk about is aspirin. Now I
You're on
have
a
a
health kick today.
big health kick. Yeah,
Alcoholic Snapple, ketchup.
yeah,
Now we're going to talk aspirin.
aspirin.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to talk about aspirin is because I don't know. It came into my mind the other day, now or last week. If aspirin were to be introduced on the market today, it would be a prescription item because
Really?
yes, it would, because it would be very regulated. Now, as it is, I forgot the statistics, but let me see if I got it written here. Yeah, there were more. Let's see. It was the 34th most commonly prescribed medication in the United States, with more than 17 million prescriptions in the United States.
Wow.
So that's just prescriptions where the doctor said, "Hey, I want you to take this," and the insurance will cover it because you could buy the damn aspirin over the counter anyway. But yeah, it there's a lot of medical benefits in order for aspirin, and it's salicylic acid. That's really what it's called for. It's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug used to reduce pain, fever, and inflammation. And I'm sure a lot of people use it. It's prescribed if you have a heart attack. Uh, one a day, for medicinal benefits, will keep your blood flowing. It's up to your doctor. So I'm not going to give you any specific
No medical
information.
advice on this show.
No,
No.
whatsoever. I don't take aspirin anymore, and the reason being is because
He's
it
got
bothers me.
ketchup.
It bothers my stomach. But go ahead, Noah, laugh.
You could do aspirin with your ketchup chasers, John.
But being from my background in the pharmaceutical industry, aspirin is a big pain in the neck to package. Now, that was my forte, the packaging department. There's actually only about 8 aspirin manufacturers throughout the world. There's a couple in Germany. There's a couple in China. I know there's 1 or 2 in India. And there's a few in the United States. So, for instance, if a company is packaging aspirin, they're not manufacturing that aspirin there because aspirin is very difficult to compound and to compress into a tablet form. There's a certain thing called friable, and everybody uses it or uses the term friability, which is really not a term for it, but it's friable, which means that it's easily disintegrated.
Mm.
If it's not compounded properly, uh, you can push on the damn thing and it just goes to powder, which it happens a lot.
Which would be ineffective in putting it into your mouth.
Well, yeah, because it tastes like hell. But that's why there's a lot of Enteric, I guess it's spelled, coatings on it now. And it's for 2 reasons. It helps maintain the integrity of the pill or the tablet, and it goes into your stomach easier so it doesn't irritate the lining of your stomach, going down and so forth and so on. And it's a different release process. But getting back to aspirin, as far as I'm concerned, packaging it, say when I was out in California, we packaged aspirin for a couple of different over-the-counter drug companies. And we would get this product. It would come in fiber drums, and it would go up to the one department who would open it and inspect it. And then they would send it down to the packaging department for us to package it. Well, by the time it got in the truck or the train or whatever the hell it got out to California, and this fiber drum was shaken up, it was like a mess. Okay. And the pharmacy department, the pharmacy department had to put it on a conveyor belt, and people would pick out, the good ones and not the good ones and so forth and so on. And the excess powder would fall, through a grate into a bin of some sort. I don't even know what the hell they did.
That's where BC powder came from.
And right, probably. And then they would take it and then they would put it back in a drum and ship it down to the packaging department. And by the time it got from upstairs to downstairs, if the service worker bounced it off a pallet, you'd get a couple of aspirin in there that would break. So when you'd put them into the equipment, into the cavities of the filler, either they would shingle in there because they didn't fit properly because they were cracked or broken in half, or maybe 1 1/2 tried to get into that cavity. It was a disaster to try to package. But Yeah, that's my
Wow.
aspirin story. All right, we're see how I educated everybody
We've
today?
been fully educated today. All right. Well, shall we wrap it up this week?
I think so.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining us this week on Card Shop Insiders. We are so grateful for your support and listening. If you like the show, please like, subscribe, and follow on iTunes and YouTube and Spotify and all the other platforms. You can find us on social media at Card Shop Insiders on Instagram and X. And we'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our Patreon patrons, Ben, Brandon, Grant, Logan, and Drayton. Thank you so much for supporting our efforts. If you would like to interact with the show or have questions and would like to see covered in future episodes, please head over to the YouTube channel and share a comment with the latest episode. And finally, suppose you are able, willing, and interested in contributing to the show financially. In that case, you can join up on Patreon, where our basic tier subscription includes behind the scenes video that shows John and I trying to learn how to use technology, in addition to discussing topics that are not covered on the show. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Metaphorically, of course, since you can't see, well, you might be able to see us depending on your platform choice, but we cannot see you. But we like to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you listening.